What if a book written in 1926 held the exact blueprint to make you rich today? Most people scroll past ancient wisdom, but the ones who stop and listen, they build empires. Today, we're cracking open the vault on the richest man in Babylon, and I'm giving you 7 life-changing lessons that have quietly made millionaires for nearly a century. Welcome to MindCode Vault, where we decode the secrets the wealthy already know. Let's get into it. There is a moment, and if you're honest with yourself, you have felt it, where you look at your bank account, your life, your circumstances, and you feel a quiet, sinking dread. Not the loud panic of a crisis, but the slow, suffocating weight of realizing that time is passing, money is slipping through your fingers like sand, and the gap between where you are and where you want it to be is not closing, it is widening. That feeling has a name. It is not failure. It is not laziness. It is not even bad luck, though you may have told yourself that story 100 times. That feeling is the consequence of never being taught the rules of the game. You are already playing. Most people spend their entire lives working inside a financial system they were never taught to understand. They earn, they spend, they hope, they repeat. And somewhere in the middle of that cycle, they begin to quietly accept that wealth, real, lasting, generational wealth, is simply not meant for people like them. It is for the lucky, the connected, the born into it crowd. But here's the uncomfortable truth that a book written nearly a century ago tried to scream into the void. The rules of wealth have not changed. Not in 1,000 years. Not in 5,000 years. What worked in ancient Babylon works today in Brooklyn, in Lahore, in Lagos, in any city where a human being wakes up and decides that today is the day they stop trading their life for the illusion of financial comfort. George S. Clason wrote The Richest Man in Babylon in 1926, but he said it in a world far older, a world of dusty streets, gold coins, and clay tablets, because he understood something profound. He understood that the principles of wealth are not modern inventions. They are ancient laws, as reliable and unchanging as gravity. And if you have never read this book, or if you've read it once and filed it away under interesting but not urgent, then what follows is not a summary. It is an intervention. These are the 7 lessons from that ancient city that have the power to completely restructure your financial life, not someday, not when the economy improves, not when you get the raise, but starting from the moment you finish listening to this. The first lesson is the one that changes everything before any other lesson can take root, and it is this: a part of all you earn is yours to keep. Read that again. Not a part of what is left over. Not whatever survives the rent, the groceries, the subscriptions, the late nights of emotional spending. A part of all you earn is yours to keep first, before anyone else touches it, before the landlord, before the credit card company, before the food delivery app. Arcad, the richest man in Babylon, was not born wealthy. He was a scribe. He carved words into clay for others, and for years he worked and earned and had nothing to show for it. Then an older, wiser merchant named Algamish gave him a single instruction: keep 1/10 of everything you earn for yourself. Arcad was confused, as most people are when they hear this. He said, "But I do give myself all that I earn. I spend it on my needs and my family." And Algamish looked at him the way a doctor looks at a patient who doesn't understand the diagnosis and said, "You give yourself the things you desire. Landlord gets his share. The merchant gets his share. The tax collector gets his share. But you get nothing. You are feeding everyone else first and calling the scraps your reward." This is not a metaphor. This is the financial reality of most working people on earth right now. In the modern economy, we have engineered an extraordinary number of ways to take money from you before you even have a chance to think about it. Subscription services auto on you. Interest compounds quietly. Lifestyle inflation creeps in every time your income rises. You get a promotion, and within 3 months your expenses have expanded to consume every extra dollar of it. This is not weakness. It is what happens when you have no system. And the system begins with one sacred habit: pay yourself first, 10% off the top. Every paycheck, every freelance invoice, every side hustle payment, every birthday gift of cash. Before you pay anyone or anything else, 10% moves into an account that is not your checking account, not your everyday spending pool, not something you browse on a Tuesday afternoon when you're bored. It is untouchable. It is growing. It is yours. And the psychological shift that happens when you do this consistently, when you begin to see that number rise month after month, is one of the most powerful reprogramming experiences available to a human being. You stop feeling like money. It's something that passes through you. You start feeling like money is something that accumulates for you. The second lesson is deceptively simple and violently ignored. Control your expenditures. Not because abundance is wrong. Not because you should live like a monk. But because, as Clason so precisely observed, what each of us calls our necessary expenses will always grow to equal our incomes unless we consciously push back. This is the hedonic treadmill dressed in financial language, And it is the reason why people who earn $200,000 a year can be just as broke and just as anxious as people who earn $20,000. Because the person earning $200,000 has a $200,000 lifestyle, and the person earning $20,000 has a $20,000 lifestyle, and both of them have saved almost exactly nothing. The Babylonians called this confusing desires with necessities. We confuse them every single day. The car upgrade that felt mandatory. The apartment in the better neighborhood that felt like a logical next step. The phone that cost $1,400 because the camera was marginally better. These are not needs. They are desires dressed in the costume of needs, and they are silently, steadily eating the financial future of almost everyone reading this right now. The practice here is radical honesty. Write down everything you spend for 30 days. Not to shame yourself. Not to deprive yourself. But to see clearly and without illusion where your money actually goes. Most people who do this exercise are stunned. Not by one massive leak, but by dozens of small ones they've never noticed because they never looked. Budget not to restrict your life, but to protect it. Every dollar that leaves your account should be doing so with your conscious permission, not because a merchant made the default setting auto-renew. The third lesson is the one that separates the financially informed from the financially literate, and most people never cross this line. Put your goal to labor. Saving money is necessary, it is the foundation, but money sitting still is not wealth, it is potential wealth, slowly being eroded by inflation. In Babylon, Arch had learned that gold must work for you the way a hired hand works in a field. It must generate more of itself. Today, this means investing, but not in the chaotic, speculative, hope and pray way that most people approach it. The principle is not complicated. When you have saved your first pool of money, you put it to work in vehicles that compound over time, index funds, real estate, a business, the skills that generate income in the age of the AI economy, and this matters enormously right now. There are assets being built every single day that did not exist 5 years ago. Newsletters, digital products, online courses, licensing agreements, automated businesses that generate revenue while you sleep. The barrier to entry for creating an income-producing asset has never been lower in human history, and most people are not taking advantage of it because they are still operating on the industrial age belief that income can only come from a job. Arcade grew wealthy, not because he hoarded gold, but because he put it in motion. He invested in trade caravans. He lent money to craftsmen. He bought land. Every coin was conscripted into service. Your money, sitting in a savings account earning 0.01% interest, is not in service. It is in retirement, and it is slowly losing value every year to inflation while you work harder and harder to replace what it is quietly losing. The fourth lesson is one of the most practical and most frequently dismissed. Guard your treasures from loss. This is the risk management principle, and it is the one that trips up almost everyone who finally gets serious about building wealth, because ambition and optimism, without discernment, are just expensive forms of gambling. In the book, Arcad warns explicitly against investing in ventures you do not understand, taking advice from people who are not qualified to give it, or trusting your life savings to the enthusiasm of someone who is excited about an opportunity but has no track record of success in it. In the modern world, this lesson is more important than ever. Cryptocurrency speculation, NFT markets, pyramid schemes wearing the clothes of multi-level marketing, get-rich-quick courses sold by people who got rich selling get-rich-quick courses. The ancient principle is elegant and merciless. The first goal of investment is the safety of the principle. Before you ask how much you can make, ask how much you can lose. And if you cannot clearly answer that second question, you are not investing. You are gambling. Diversification is not a boring, conservative hedge fund word. It is protection. It is the acknowledgement that no single asset, no single income stream, no single business is immune to disruption. The pandemic wiped out industries overnight. Artificial intelligence is disrupting entire professional categories in real time. The freelancer who has 3 clients is not 3 times as secure as the freelancer with 1 client. They are exponentially more secure, because the collapse of any single relationship does not collapse the whole structure. Build multiple streams. Protect the principle. Understand before you enter. The fifth lesson is one that cuts against every instinct of a society addicted to instant gratification. Make of your dwelling a profitable investment. This is not a literal instruction to become a landlord, though that is one application of it. The deeper principle is that your home, the place where your life happens, where your energy is spent, should be working for you, not just costing you. In Babylon, citizens were encouraged to own their homes rather than pay rent to landlords indefinitely, because every payment to a landlord is a payment that builds someone else's wealth, not yours. In the modern housing market, this is complicated by geography and price, and there is no universal answer. But the underlying truth holds. Wherever you can transform a cost into an asset, you are compressing time on your path to financial freedom. The person who rents out a room. The freelancer who works from home and legitimately deducts a portion of their living expenses as a business cost. The creator who films content in their apartment and effectively has their living space double as a studio. These are not hacks. They are the ancient principle applied with modern creativity. Your environment, which should be an investment, not just an expense. Even if you cannot own property right now, you can ensure that where and how you live is actively supporting your productivity, your income generation, and your peace of mind, because a person who is financially anxious and emotionally drained produces less, earns less, invests less, and compounds less. Your living situation is a financial decision, even when it does not feel like one. The sixth lesson is the one that stings most in a culture of individual achievement and competitive self-sufficiency. Seek advice only from those competent to give it. This sounds obvious. It is not practiced. Arcade watches a friend lose his savings by taking investment advice from a bricklayer about jewels. The bricklayer was a good bricklayer. He knew nothing about jewels, and yet the friend trusted the enthusiasm of someone he liked over the expertise of someone who actually knew the domain. Look at your own financial life right now and ask yourself, where are you taking advice from people who are not qualified to give it? Your parents, who mean well, but whose financial knowledge was formed in a different economy that no longer exists. Friends who are in the same financial situation as you and therefore have no direct evidence that their approach works. Social media influencers who are monetizing your attention and your insecurity simultaneously. The person at work who heard that a certain investment is about to explode in the AI economy. This lesson has a new urgency. There is more financial information available today than at any point in human history, and the vast majority of it is noise, agenda, or simply wrong. The skill of discernment of knowing whose advice is worth taking, whose credentials are real, whose results are verified is one of the most financially valuable skills you can develop. Find mentors who have the results you want. Read books written by people with track records. Hire professionals in areas that matter. The cost of a genuine financial advisor, a skilled accountant, a legitimate tax strategist, these costs pay for themselves many times over. The cost of bad advice, taken from unqualified sources, can set you back years. The seventh and final lesson is the most expansive and the most humanly important. Cultivate your own powers, to study and become wiser, to become more skillful, to so act as to respect yourself. This is the lesson of self-investment, and it is the engine beneath every other lesson in this list. Because all the financial principles in the world are inert without the person capable of applying them, and the person capable of applying them is not found. They are built. Arcad understood that wealth was not primarily an external accumulation. It was an internal capacity. The richest man in Babylon was not rich because he was lucky. He was rich because he had made himself into a person who could generate, manage, protect, and grow wealth. And he had done that through decades of deliberate, humble, relentless self-improvement. He sought knowledge. He made mistakes and studied them instead of hiding from them. He surrounded himself with people more capable than himself in specific domains and absorbed everything they knew in practical terms for your life right now. This means that every skill you develop that increases your earning potential is the equivalent of creating a financial asset. The freelancer who learns copywriting earns more than the one who does not. The entrepreneur who learns about unit economics and customer acquisition makes smarter decisions than the one who is winging it on passion alone. The employee who understands how their industry is being transformed by artificial intelligence and positions themselves accordingly will not be replaced by it. They will be propelled by it. The person who invests in their physical health, their mental clarity, their emotional regulation, is investing in the instrument through which all other investments are managed. You are the primary asset. You are the fund manager of your own life, and the returns on every other investment you make are multiplied or limited by the quality of the person doing the investing. Here is where we arrive at the closing of this journey through ancient Babylon, and it is the moment for complete honesty. These 7 lessons are not complicated. They are not secret. They are not available only to people with advanced degrees or large inheritances or extraordinary luck. They are available to anyone who chooses to apply them, and they have been, or available for over 4,000 years. The people of Babylon did not have smartphones or index funds or passive income courses, and yet they built one of the most prosperous civilizations in human history using these principles, because the principles are not about instruments. They are about behaviors, habits, disciplines, choices made consistently over time. The most painful version of this story is not the person who tried and failed. The most painful version is the person who understood the principles, nodded along, felt inspired, and then did nothing. Because inspiration without action is just entertainment. And the cost of that inaction compounds just as surely as the cost of investment compounds, except in reverse. Every year you delay paying yourself first is a year of compounding that, which cannot be recovered. Every year you spend without a budget is a year of leaks that could have been streams. Every year you leave your money sitting idle instead of putting it to work is a year of inflation, quietly eating your potential future. The gap between where you are and where you want to be is not a mystery. It is a series of decisions, many of them small, most of them daily, that either follow the ancient laws of wealth or ignore them. And the extraordinary gift of this moment right now is that you know the laws, you have heard them. The question that remains, the only question that has ever mattered, is whether you will use them. Ancient Babylon is dust, but its wisdom is not. The richest man who ever walked those streets left behind a roadmap so clear, so simple, so relentlessly applicable that a person reading it today, in any city, in any economy, in any circumstance, can follow it to a different life. The tools have changed, the principles have not. The choice is yours, and it always has been.